And we're going live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody in YouTube and Instagram Live? It's Dan from Atlas Lens Co. And we're here for another Atlas Tuesday telecast with some very special guests today. We have cinematographer Xavier Dolleans and also Eric Robbins, another fantastic cinematographer. Thank you for joining us. And Eric also runs Visual Harassment, right?
Correct.
Which is a very awesome boutique rental house here in the Los Angeles area. How you doing today?
Pretty good. It's always good when you're at Atlas. Meet new people, hanging out in this beautiful space.
Yeah.
How about you? How's your morning going?
That's great. The sun is here finally. I'm here since February, and this is the second day of sun, so I'm very happy.
This is a very important topic relative to what we're talking about today, which is what are some of your worst on-set experiences, or how did you overcome adversity in the workplace, right? So, like, for me, one of my personal biggest problems with working in the film industry, and I never realized it was a problem until recently, is my skin is very sensitive to the sun. So if we're working day exterior, I just never put enough sunscreen on. Mm-hmm. So, like, how do you guys handle sun exposure? Because my biggest problem with sunscreen, besides not liking it, is that it gets in my eyes when I do put it on. So how do you guys handle sun exposure?
I was just going to say the same thing. You know, when you're sweating and you're in the camera and it just starts coming down and gets into your eye, and then your eye's irritated and you're like, oh man, I need this thing to work. I mean, I'm lost without it. Yeah, so, and that, you know, eyepiece environment just helps build up all that irritation.
Ocular mucosa, someone might say. Is that a Harry Potter spell?
Yeah, and then you have the cream, you know, the cream going into the cap like that. And you have the leak of the cream, like, all around. You have to change your cap every 2 days, you know.
Yeah. Unless you're like camouflage, and then, you know.
Yeah.
So I hope you guys lathered up with some like light sunscreen that's not gonna get in your eyes today. Like, I found that there's one called Sun Bum that's roll-on, because I don't like getting it on my hands either. Then if you're operating, or, you know, if you touch a lens, you're gonna get like a full handprint on the side of the lens. Camera assistants love it when we do that.
Yeah, slippery hands and rare lenses. It's a great combination.
Yes.
So thank you guys so much for joining us today. And as we said earlier, the fantastic topic for today's discussion, courtesy of Aldis here on our team, who's doing admin on the chat. Shout out Aldis, thank you so much for also coming up with this great topic of discussion. And huge shout out and thank you to B, who's handling technical production for our live stream today. Couldn't do it without you. We're coming at you live through a red Komodo with a 65mm Orion series lens. So always nice to be doing a live stream in anamorphic on both Instagram and YouTube live at the same time.
That's great.
So tell us, I mean, for those of you who are unfamiliar, tell us a little bit about your work as a cinematographer. I mean, I know you shot the fantastic show called Germinal, but tell us what else you've been up to lately.
Yeah, I shot the show Germinal with Atlas Orion lenses, and then I shot a movie called Marinette in France. This is a biopic about the first female soccer player, and we shot also with Atlas Orion.
No way.
Wow. And I shot also recently, end of 2022, I shot a series, 2 episodes of a series called Mrs. Davis on Peacock. I shot episode 3 and 4, anamorphic also, another brand.
That's okay, you can say what it is. We love lenses here. We're like, the reason we started this is because we're just lens nerds. So even though this is an Atlas stream, we're brand agnostic. We love lenses. So.
Yeah. And
you use Caldwell
Chameleon,
right?
yeah.
Nice.
Yes, in Super 35, but we use the Super 35 plus extended coverage of the lens circle to cover like a 4K negative on the LF, actually, you know.
Cool.
So we did a custom frame lines for every lens, basically.
Ah, nice.
That was nice to explore new anamorphics. I didn't choose, actually. Joe Anderson chose those lenses initially for episode 1 and 2. And I'm always very curious, you know. And recently I shot a short film with the Mercury series, new way to explore anamorphic full frame, another ratio of compression in the anamorphic world also, the 1.5, very interesting for me on a full frame sensor.
Super cool.
So yeah, that's it.
And how about you, Eric? What have you been up to lately?
I mean, it's been a lifetime of advertising as usual. This year's been spotty and a lot of fun at the same time. Always busy putting lenses out in the world, meeting with Dan, people like Dan, collecting, renting, taking care of other super talented cinematographers.
One thing I know about you that I really love is you collect movie posters, right?
That's true. I have a collecting disease. Lenses are a great place to focus that sickness, but yeah, posters have been all graphic design, but I really like posters because of obviously what we do, and ironically, we're just in the round 2 of doing a book on Thai movie posters.
Wow.
That my brother and I grew up on, 80s, 90s movies when Hollywood was exploding. They're so unrecognized, and there are not many copies left because of the humidity of Thailand and the lack of movie theaters. So yeah, keep an eye out. Maybe sometime
that is so
August.
Cool. How did you first get exposed to the Thai posters in particular?
Just always looking at posters my whole life, and a few years ago I ran by one on the internet and thought, whoa, these are really cool. The graphic design's beautiful. The absurdity of the posters themselves. It's like the whole movie, the whole spoiler, the whole movie is right there. And you're like, well, that's a trick for advertising. In one image, and they're all hand painted and vibrant, and then they had no censor laws, so they're really violent and graphic and sexual, and you're like, whoa, no other country could pull this off. So then I asked other friends who are collectors and some dealers, I'm like, have you seen this? And oddly enough, no. So of course that, much like the museum over there, lights a fire under people like my brother and I's asses, and we started slowly finding them and talking to all sorts of people. So that's I guess that's how it started and how it evolved. And
I love that.
And do you plan to do an actual museum?
I don't know if we'll do a museum. We're starting with a book. We're collaborating with a brand actually here in Los Angeles called Secret Headquarters. That they just moved Atwater. He loves to produce books, and that's always been a dream of mine. Other than making stuff, it's like another way to export creativity.
And you, in a way, sort of visual harassment, you have a little bit of a micro gallery in a way, right?
Yeah.
So that's a really nice side benefit of the workspace. If we can fill the spaces that we work with things that we love. I mean, even if I'm sure a lot of people out there, as you're doing a show, whether you're in set lighting or the grip department or the camera department, the truck becomes in a way sort of like a second home, right? And so the way that you occupy that space can really make a huge difference in the quality of life. Home away from home. So people putting up their hammocks in the truck for lunchtime naps, or funny artwork that people will draw or doodle, right?
Yeah, I mean, my favorite of all those is I went and visited my brother for a couple days on a film, and they had it was either prosciutto or serrano on a whole rack sitting in the truck. And I was like, oh, that's a good extremist version. I was like, whose expression is this? I mean, that's what it really is. Everyone brings in a little bit of what they need to feel comfortable on the in-between moments or the off hour. And it just cracked me up.
The Apple box is like a charcuterie.
No, they had the whole thing. They had the rack so you could slice it.
Wow.
It killed me. I was like, are you serious? You guys did that? Okay, fair enough. That's a whole nother plethora of absurdity.
Amazing.
But to your point, I think having a space much like this, well, much smaller than this, but leaving it as a playground for tangential things that people are inspired to get to become a camera person, a cinematographer, a director. It's not only a conversation starter, but we all are kind of doing the same thing. We're all taking our ideas, things we were referencing when we were younger, stories, books, movies, art, and you go into a facility sometimes and it's just void of all that. It's nice to be able to take these things and place them in a spot, and hopefully it makes people look at things they maybe never had before, or start a conversation on the floor that they never knew they were going to get into, that isn't just about camera bodies and cables and lenses. So yeah, I think that it's a gift.
It adds a little bit of joy that just sparks your creativity and interest, right? And makes your day better in a small way, like a little piece at a time. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we're all really lucky people to be able to work in the creative space in the first place. And I think everyone's really open. You know, it's the nice thing about the film industry, it's a very open group of people. And it's amazing what people are like, you know, I got into this because of that. And you're like, whoa, I've never met anyone that, you know, was into like a very specific thing, and like that was where they may have unlocked creativity and then realized, oh, I can like do something creative, like be a DP and make a living and still be an artist. You know, that's a really unique thing that I think a lot of industries, once again, don't have.
It's both a bohemian and a hard lifestyle at the same time, right? So it's sort of, I like to think of us as pirates in a way, with a benevolent pirates, right? We're out on a quest to make something or find something, you know, discover the story, and things will happen along the way that become part of the adventure. And so if you're just joining us, our topic of discussion today is what were some of the worst days or biggest challenges you faced on set, and then how did you sort of overcome or interact with those challenges? And so we're joined with Xavier, Dolleans, cinematographer, Eric Robbins, cinematographer. And if you have stories that you'd like to share, drop those notes in the comments about your worst day on set or some of the days that you've had the most adversity in the filmmaking environment, and we'll share those stories on screen after we relay a few of our own tales of terror, so to speak. So yeah, is there anything that comes to mind for you, Xavier, that represents like one of the most challenging days or worst days in your filmmaking career that you were either able to turn around or maybe you weren't able to turn it around, and how did you deal with that?
Yeah, I have a couple. We all have a couple of days like that. I think maybe the last one was on Mrs. Davis. We were shooting in Spain, and in an area where, I mean, during the scouting, the guys told me, oh, you should pay attention, we have wind sometime. Yeah, and we scouted many times during Take Ricky, and then no wind, you know. So I planned something like big. It was a big night sequence with a lot of extras and a big sword, you know, 12-meter sword in the middle of a castle. In the story, this is a medieval cosplay event with a lot of people coming on the sword, and they have to stay as long as possible touching the sword, you know, day and night. So we had a big night scene to do with thunder machine, you know, lighting machine, and rain, and 3 cameras, 2 on Super Techno, 1 Super Techno, 1 Scorpio. So this kind of heavy setups, you know, for night.
Complex.
Yeah.
And I plan to have a big light box, like a 20 by 20 by with 12 sky panels 360 inside, and a 70-meter construction crane above the set, plus some lighting balloons and lighting strike machine. So very quickly in the morning, I mean, my crew was pre-lighting that during the day. It was on a Friday. And in the morning at 9, the production called saying, oh, the wind is coming, so nothing can fly. I mean, the construction crane is not going to be able to fly. And the balloon, this is even worse. So I was like, are you sure? I mean, can we wait the end? I mean, and then they told me, yeah, no, we have to make a decision now, but we have to push as much as possible to be able to start shooting. And if we can't, maybe we can call it an insurance day, but before that, we can't, you know. So I was like, okay, I'm going to change my plan. So I called back my rigging gaffer and gaffer on set for the pre-lighting. And I was like, okay, I have ideas, because the size of the trucks were good on that show. So we had like 9K, 18K Fresnel, you know, we had equipment. So I told them, okay, maybe push a little bit for the balloon and the box still. I'm coming with a new plan on set now. And I was like shaking, because that scene was a big one, you know. Initially, that's really big one in the script. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. And the set was so big, like a castle, you know, with like, probably 15 meters wall
so
all
stressful.
around, nighttime, all the machine and everything planned, and I had a specific lighting strike machine, 200 kilowatt, with a specific genie just for that. And during my travel, I was in the cab because nobody was available from the productions to take me from my hotel at that time to the set. So I took a cab, and in the cab, I drew a new lighting plan, saying, okay, what do I have? What can I do? And my gaffer told me, you go on stand only, and low on stand, and no diffusion frame, because we can't put anything. Yeah. So I decided, okay, I'm going to circle on the wall, on the giant wall, I'm going to circle with 9K, 18K, 9K, 18K, without any diffusion frame. So basic HMI. And I told to the line producer, I have maybe a plan, but I think it's going to look like a series in the 90s, with hard and strong.
I was going to say, this is reminiscent of the hard lighting style, back when people were shooting a lot more film and you'd have much lower ASA. Yeah. And, you're not really worried about softening things as much back in the day. Yeah. It's so fascinating to look back at that time, right? Yeah. And in our memories, the movies look one way. Yeah. But then you actually go and look at it now, and you're like, say, that doesn't look the way that I remember it, but it's still beautiful. Yeah. But it's just different than I remember. Yeah. So. And a lot of hard lights, actually, and a lot of HMI at night without any diffusion and this kind of stuff. So I was like, okay, let's see. And even the balloon, when I arrived on set, the balloon was already a little bit inflated, and they told me this is too dangerous to keep it this way. We have to take it away. And the construction crane was... They were building it, so we stopped with the construction crane and everything. And I told to the director, I'm sorry, the box itself, I don't have time to take it off. So we need to move a little bit, everything. And we need to, and actually we followed the plan of the breakdown of the schedule of the shots we had. And I think I started maybe 1 hour late on the schedule, and I told everybody, okay, so we keep the 18K, one person per 18K and 9K with some screen to deal with the light level. And I told them, we are going to, we backlight and we sidelight a little bit. And all all around the sword itself, we had some big fire in bowls, big bowls, probably the size of that table. And with actual SFX inside. And the guy from SFX told me, with the wind, I can put them for the wide shot, but maybe for the close-up, I have to shut them off. I was like, could have been a base for lighting close to the sword, And then I realized, so they try to help me as much as possible with those ball of fire. Plus, I took very basic 360 sky panel. As they are big, I take them closer to do soft lighting with them on faces for close-up, and they were resistant to the wind, and I did the night like that with my 18Ks and 360 sky panel. And the look is totally different. The look of the scene is totally different, but I really like it. I mean, at the end of the day, the line producer, he came to me and he said to me, oh wow, this is not looking like a 90 TV series, And he told me, this is great. I'm really happy that we were able to finish the night. I think we were missing maybe a few scenes, one part of the scene, and then we had to do not a reshoot, but another part of night, just for that. But little pickup.
Yeah, but the night itself was kind of saved,
Awesome.
Yeah, that was, and also I think probably the look of the scene is better than what I planned initially.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's really
so.
cool.
I think so.
Yeah, that's but a lot of that is just, believing in yourself and having the confidence, and it's exactly why
I was not really confident that day, I can tell you. I just want to light and, very basic lighting, back and soft.
But I mean, the instinct, you're working off instinct in that situation because you're not working off of a plan, and being malleable like that. I mean, I think that's a critical part of the job. If you're inflexible and not malleable, then someone can implode in that moment. I think a lot of people, and I think something that you said that's really impressive is, managing expectations. Out of the box, you're like, oh, it's gonna look like a 90s thing, but it didn't. It looks amazing. So
I was really surprised about what we did. I think the fire helped me a lot also to fill the gap in the lighting plan. The big ball of fire. I think they were very useful. Those guys from SFX, sometimes you have to also collaborate with SFX as in terms of lighting, and that was a big experience for me. I think I never did something like that with SFX in the lighting plan. You know what I mean? In the lighting design. Yeah.
That's part of the scheme.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, I like to say filmmaking has taught me basically a better way of life in a way, because it's not the plan.
Yeah.
It's the act of planning, right? So if we put together a plan, we know that no matter how hard we plan and try to predict the way things are going to go, something is always going to be a little bit different. And so to be able to prototype rapidly in the face of adversity really makes for a much richer life experience.
Yeah, you're right.
And to be adaptable rather than rigid, because no matter how hard you plan, things are always going to be a little different than your expectations.
I guess it's like what life's a river. You either go with the current or you go against it.
Yeah, you go with the flow. And this is interesting because when you start to go with the flow, you start to recognize a little sign of go more with the flow.
Yeah, maybe kick right a little. Yeah, totally. I mean, like, sure, yeah, it's just like you're saying, designing. I mean, it is a technical thing. These lenses are technical, and I've even seen you mixing with some colors here in the past. It's you intend something, and then you're like, well, in your intentions, you see an opportunity for just a little adjustment, and sometimes that adjustment, it goes enormous. It becomes the thing that you would have never thought you landed on, and when you look at master class paintings, go all the way back in time, and sometimes they're like, I know all that, a lot of those were planned out, but I always think sometimes I'm like, I wonder where they're like, and then that might be what makes that piece magical for that painter, because then the rest of the work after that is one little technique or one little mistake that just takes it to a whole nother level. And maybe that's why we're seeing it in museum and it's in history. It's just like those little accidental aha moments. Like you know how to deal with like that now, and maybe something unlocked where you can get into a design of something even bigger or the same size later. Like consciousness too. It's like, are we really always, we have in our intentions, but I think sometimes like we're conscious of our choices, but then the ones that are like, whoa, instinctual become, who we are.
The ones that stay. So speaking of that, I have a much less elegant story of something accidental that happened to me on a film set. I was a set lighting technician. This is about 17 or 18 years ago. And we were in the West Adams area of Los Angeles, which has all these beautiful Victorian-style homes. There's some craftsman-style homes. But we're in this big Victorian house that's been in a lot of movies. I'm trying to remember the name of this movie, but I can't right now. But I was up there in the attic, and this building, they'd had a huge fire that had burned out a lot of the house, but then they'd rebuilt it. So, we're shooting this big Victorian house, and I'm in the attic, and I'm supposed to be wrapping up cable and bringing it downstairs because we're moving on to another setup. And I take one misstep in that attic, and I go right through the attic floorboard, bust through the ceiling, and I fall flat on my back. It was, I don't know, probably at least 12 feet of a fall from in that attic. Wow. And I'm like holding a cable on my arm. And I land on my back, and I'm like, they say you're not supposed to stand up if you have a fall like that. And I was like shaking. I go, I got to get up and see if I can walk or if I'm paralyzed. So I stand up, and I'm just in shock. Everybody's like, what happened to you? I fell through the ceiling, man. And, thankfully I went to the hospital and got x-rayed and stuff like that. But all I had was a contusion, which is like a very deep tissue bruise. But I think I've never been the same since.
Yeah, it was that flight, that little 1 second of flight.
Yeah.
It's a whole new direction. Maybe that's why we're sitting here.
It was gnarly, but the funny thing is I went back to set and was right back there working that same day. So not as elegant of a story, but I made it through. So all this is so kind to remind me that we have a prize to give away for a trivia question. Do you mind reminding me that trivia question?
The trivia question, it was which actor
So notoriously in the film The Shining,
Yeah.
who did Stanley Kubrick have beef with in the movie The Shining? Answer that question in the DMs. You can get a free hat. First answer that question, right? Okay. Thank you. So, and also, if there's anybody who has any set stories you'd like to relay to us, let us know. But otherwise, I'd love to pass the mic over to Eric. My story was not nearly as gracious as yours, but it was funny.
Fair enough. I'd say it was probably, there's so many, you just, which one really stings you, it makes you work the hardest, and you're like, wow, okay, didn't expect that coming. It's probably about 2013, maybe 2014, 12, somewhere in this window. Director and I went and did a commercial in Kiev, a cell phone ad. He went out ahead. We did a lot of like go motion-y plus real motion mixed jobs, and it was he always had a knack to make things difficult and complicated, and that's probably why his work was cool. So he gets ahead, he's there for like a week before me. I fly in, whole job was supposed to be on motion control, like basically an airplane hangar. They were going to construct this little set, and, large, big tungsten lights. At the time, we were using a mix of like the Alexa Classic and 70s with, cinema lenses on them. It's probably like Ultra Primes or Master Primes or something. And, I've been there for like a day or two. We tech scout, plan everything out.
What were lighting instruments like in Kiev? This is something I've always
It
wondered.
was a lot of tungsten. We just went classic tungsten.
But do they have like former Soviet Union tungsten heads, or do they bring over American stuff like Mole Richardson?
I don't remember. I think they were Mole Richardson. I'm pretty sure it was Moles.
Shout out Mole Richardson.
I could be wrong. It was a while ago. My memory sometimes. But we prep everything. It's supposed to be one long move, and then it goes from the animated look to live action. But we had to shoot it in reverse because the set was being taken away, and it looked like it had to be put in. And there's all these boxes that the sets were built out of, and all these like 2D looking props that were brought in and moved in front of the camera while the camera's moving. So it wasn't the easiest thing, and hence the need for motion control as it's moving. And we get this call the day before, I think it was even the night before, and they're like, so the MoCo rig's not going to make it. And we're like, what? The motion control rig's not going to make it? How do we do this? This is insane. So both of us were like, well, I guess maybe we should just get on a plane and fly back home. I don't know. And so we sit there for a while. I remember we were like outside, and we're like, will you just treat this like traditional animation and just feather all our moves, and we'll get a Panther dolly, because that's what they have there, or some type of dolly, and we'll just map the whole thing out on the floor with tape. But they got to be willing to clean up the floor in post on whatever timetable they have. So we sat there, and we sort of went back into the space and looked at it. And it's an airplane hangar. It's not small. It's a sizable building, and we laid all the tape out, and we counted it out time-wise for the 30-second spot with the last, I don't remember, a couple seconds on the Alexa, and we started it. And of course, we're like, in the process, there's no room for error because it would just mess the whole thing up. The director is a very smart guy, and we it literally looked like some like crazy tape spiral looking thing, and then we had all our notes to like raise the camera, lower the camera. The one thing no one ever took into consideration is how long it was going to take. So we worked for 33 hours.
Oof.
And they didn't break. Just 33 straight hours. In fact, the last 2 hours when it went to live action, when it hit that spot, I was like, I got to get on a plane. I got to go do another job. And that was it. I left, and I remember just looking around and thinking, I'm so happy nothing fell on me. Like no lights, no one got hurt. I don't think I've ever been that tired.
That's gnarly.
But
did you figure out a way to do shifts of like resting a little bit, or is it just straight?
No, we just worked.
So you're just straight jacked on taurine and stuff?
I mean,
Like-
everyone was just drinking coffee, and I mean, but it's on a level. It's really sad that they let us work that long on set. I thought that was like obscene. It was supposed
That
to be
is
a
crazy.
12-hour day, and it ended up being many 12-hour days in a row. And yeah, that was a nightmare.
How did the spot turn out? Were you
It looks
happy with
fine.
it?
Yeah, it just looks like it's supposed to. I mean,
So that's like not motion control. That's like brotion control,
yeah,
pretty much.
It was
Or torsion control. I
Yeah.
don't know. Sounds like torture.
It was torture. So that one was really. I've never been that tired.
Sheesh.
Do what you got to do, right?
It makes us stronger, right?
Yeah,
do what
yeah.
you got to do.
Yeah.
Well, it's been really an honor and pleasure having both of you here to share some of your best and worst adventures in the film world. Aldous, do we have any stories from people in the audience in the DMs that they'd like to have us relay on camera? Otherwise, we could see if anybody answered the question, who did Stanley Kubrick have beef with on the Shining set?
The first one I answered was Spear Film, and he said Shelley Duvall.
Spear Film, shout out. Sounds like you won the prize.
New lid for Spear.
New cap.
All right. Any other comments or questions? I think we're probably going to wrap up the stream here in a minute. But shout us out in the DMs. Let us know what kind of topics you'd like to see us discuss weekly during our Tuesday telecast. We also have Wednesday Lens Day. Every Wednesday here at Atlas headquarters, you're going to meet people. You're going to have free coffee. You're going to have water, soda, snacks, and a chance to connect with the community of cinematography enthusiasts who love lenses. You could bring your own camera, nerd out with us. It's every Wednesday here at Atlas headquarters in Glendale, California. Hit our DMs for reservations, but it's open to anyone. And we do that every single Wednesday. Every Tuesday we do a live stream like this. So if there's topics you'd like to see us cover or demonstrations you'd like us to do with different cameras, different lenses, let us know what you'd like to see in the comments, and we will make your dreams come true. Even if we fall through a roof or have to work 33 hours straight or it's windy outside, we're going to make it happen. All right, anything out there in the comments or questions? Okay, well, gentlemen, it's been
Thanks,
an
Dan.
honor and
Appreciate
a pleasure
it.
having
It's
you
been a
here.
pleasure.
Nice meeting you
And,
as well.
Pleasure.
who's hungry? All right, have a great day or night, depending on where you are. Tuesday telecast.